Welcome back. So once again, in this very short video, we'll be discussing the requirements for Project 1. Now, Project 1 is available on your Canvas site. It might have a different due date based on when you're watching this video, if you're watching this video over winter or in spring or summer. So don't worry about the due date I have over here, and also the point allocation might be different based on which class you're taking, but this video will be applicable regardless you're using Office 2016 or Office 2019. So you will actually probably will be able to take advantage of this video. So the video will be very short. I'm going to show you some of the things we'll be discussing in this project. So this project talks about some of the cell styles, what is a fill handle, accounting style, and some of the other styles, and also some of the functions such as sum function, and also what if I want to calculate the profits, which requires some kind of subtraction in our functionality. Also chart styles, different types of charts will be generated. And finally, how do I select non-adjacent cells? So this is what we are going to discuss in this particular video. So how do I start the requirements and look at the start file? I can click on this link, and this link, by clicking on this link, it's going to take you to the outside website, which is called SAM website, Skills Assessment Manager website. And the SAM site does not belong to Long Beach City College. It belongs to the publisher, Cengage publisher. So if you're using a different technology or different portal, that's perfectly fine as well. But if you're using SimNet, or if you're using Pearson technology or other technologies, they also are kind of similar in nature. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Project 1. When you click on Project 1, you might have a view like this one. Your view might be slightly different based on you have a student login or you have an instructor login. Once I click the link, it's going to take me to the SAM site. It's going to open up a separate window, and it might look like this. Again, this view might change based on how I actually set it up or other instructors set it up. So you can see there are three options here. You have instruction file. If I click this download, I will be able to download the instruction file. I recommend highly for the people who are watching this from home that you download the instruction file, put it somewhere in your folder, call it Excel Project 1, and save it over there. Because if you are working on this project, not in one session, 2 or 3 sessions, you don't have to log back in to the SAM site or Canvas site. You can access the instruction file directly from your personal computer, from USB, and so on and so forth. The second type of file is called start file, or the starting document. And typically for Excel project, it will be an Excel file. And the third one is, how do I see the solution file? You will not have this link. In your case, you will have, how do I upload a completed, how do I submit my completed file? So your view might be slightly different, but the first two files are identical. When I click, I'm going to close something here. Oh, it's okay. When I click my instruction file, it opens up instructions right there. So I click and open the instructions. When I click instructions, it might look something of this sort. Okay, so this tells me right there the name of the file is Excel 16-1. So that's the name of the file. Let me see if I can find my. So you can see right there, Excel 16-1. That tells me this is Project 1. Excel 16 refers to Excel 2016, and 1A is the name of the project. So that's the project. And in your textbook, you have 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, all the way to sometimes 1G or 1H. There are different projects. The project I have assigned to you for Project 1 is 1A. So if you want to read the instructions from your textbook, you may do so. These are the same instructions. If you go to your textbook, these are the same exact instructions. All right, so initially it tells you something about it, and the name of the file will be designed for you as well, especially when we go to the start file, but something you can actually look at it. All right, so that's my instruction file. We'll come back to this one. And the second thing you want to do is click the start file. The start file, I clicked on it. It is right there. It will have your first and last name. If it doesn't have a first and last name, there might be some issues. So hopefully, when you open that file, it will look something of this kind, something of look like this. So it might have the first tab as a documentation, and the second tab will have one or two or more sheets. In the first project, there's only one sheet. We'll be adding additional sheets in this project, but as you can see, the company analysis sheet, that's where the data is. So if I click on company analysis, so this is the data provided to me. This is what I have. I have some raw data. I have maybe calculated data here. I have a chart given to me, and the name of my sheet is company analysis. What do I do with this one, right? So I'm going to go to the instructions and read the first step in this instruction. What exactly I need to do, and that's where we'll be following instructions step by step. Before I actually apply all the instructions or all the steps, I would like to see how many steps are there. So it gives me an idea how much time I will be spending on this project. The people who have already completed this project, how much time did you spend on this project?
About 45 minutes.
So 45 minutes. Somebody did more or less? 30 minutes. Arsene, how much time? 45 minutes. Some of you probably have never used Excel before, probably a little bit more, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. That's okay. It's not a competition. It's just about learning that people have different kind of backgrounds. If you have used Excel extensively, probably it might take you less time as compared to people who are doing the first time. Yassine, you have worked with Excel before? Okay, so you probably will be familiar with a lot of things it's going to refer to. So that's what we are going to do. So first thing I want you to go is review how many steps are there. So if I scroll down in the instruction file, it will show me there are about 15 steps. 15 steps. If I plan to spend 2 to 3 minutes on each step, it's going to be between 30 to 45 minutes. If I'm thinking about it's going to take me 4 to 5 minutes, then it might take me more than an hour for the entire project. Now, between now and Sunday, we should be able to find 1 hour to complete this project. But the good thing is, even before we complete this project, we already probably have finished the training 1 or lab 1. If we did that, then we are familiar with most of the steps. Okay, especially people working from home, I recommend before you start this project, you work on your training 1 or lab 1. That will make a lot of sense. And also have your textbook open on Excel chapter 1. In that way, if you are not sure, how do I apply this step? It is already given in your textbook. It is already has some kind of demonstration. Also, at the end of the instruction file, it shows you what would the final completed file should look like. It tells you the numbers, all the numbers. It shows you the charts. It shows you exactly what it's supposed to look like. You can see the chart here, which is a clustered column chart, and also it shows you the 3D pie chart. It tells you exactly, you have documentation sheet, you have one sheet for clustered column, you have one sheet for pie chart, and you have the data in this sheet. So you'll end up with 1, 2, 3 sheets. Currently we have one sheet, which is called company analysis, but we'll end up with 2 charts and a company analysis data. So if you're applying certain steps and if you're not sure, you can always refer to the last couple of pages to verify your results, to verify the numbers and verify if this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay, this is for the people for working from home and you are not sure, you don't have anybody to help you at that time. You can always use this as a verification step. All right. So I'm not going to show you all the steps, but at least I'll show you some of the steps so you can have a pretty good idea. How do I start this one? And let me close, make some more real estate here. So here's the step 1. it provides you some information about the company, and the step is here. Open the company analysis worksheet and use AutoFit to adjust the width of column A. And again, in Excel, you can apply different things in different ways. There are 3-4 different ways you can apply the same step. In the past, about a few years ago, Sam was very picky. Sam wanted exactly in a specific manner. Now it's very flexible that you can apply those steps the way you like them. For example, for this particular step, I'm going to go back to my company analysis, and it's referring to this one, and it's referring to this cell here. As you can see in cell A or column A, some of the data is hidden. Some of the data in A4, A5, and A12, all the data is hidden. It's not visible. I can manually drag and make the size appropriate, but that's not what the step is asking. Step is asking, the instruction number 1 is do AutoFit. How did you do your AutoFit?
Format setting.
So you can do format setting. You can double click on it. Again, remember there are 3-4 different ways you can do it. So all those are correct ways. So you can actually go to the column A and bring your control here. See this control? It changes its shape. Right now it looks like a down arrow. Changes its shape to like a 4 directional. And when you are here between the boundaries, I want to capture this for the video. So when you are here, when your control is between A and B, you can double click on it. I think I didn't capture it. So when you are between A and B, you can double click on it, and it's going to do AutoFit for us. So if you simply double click here, and it does the AutoFit for us. So all I did was I double click on this particular area, and I was able to do AutoFit. That's just one way to do it. If you have a habit of using another method in your company, in your previous classes, that's perfectly fine as well. So the instructions doesn't say you have to do in a specific order or specific, because there are menus and ribbons available to perform exactly the same thing. Okay, so that's one of the steps. The second step, again, I'll be skipping some of the steps. I'm not going to show you how to type blooming everywhere delivery. All you have to do is go to A1 and type it. And there's a button called Merge and Center. You click on it, select the range, and click that button. It's going to make your heading slightly larger. Then it says apply the heading 1 cell style to the merged range A1 through D1. So in fact, let me show you this one. And I might not be able to capture all this while I'm typing this. So if I simply typed part of my heading, blooming, part of my heading right there, blooming in A1. And I would like to select this header or this header. When I click on this one, I can select the range and I can click on Merge and Center. Merge and Center. When I click Merge and Center, so the header will become the center of between those 4 columns, A through D. It becomes the center part of those 4 columns. Okay, so then it says select a specific style, heading 1. Now the cell styles you can find again in different ways. One of the method is you have an option right there. Right there. I think I can capture it on the camera. So cell styles are right there. Make sure you have selected the range A1 through D1. That range is selected. Go under cell styles. When you go under cell styles, it gives you various types of cells. And you're going to visit this numerous times in this class. Sometimes it might say select accent 2, select accent 3 60%. So don't confuse yourself. It's just referring to the name of the cell. Some of these cell names, the style names are strange. So if it refers to such as 20% accent 3, it's just the name of the cell style. For the step we are working on, it's asking for heading 1 style. That's the name of the style. So when I click on heading 1, and that cell style is applied to my header between A1 through D1. Okay, so that's what the step was asking in step number 2 and 3. So we just completed step 2 and 3. Okay, so of course I didn't type the whole thing. I just typed blooming, but in your case you will be typing blooming everywhere delivery. Then it says go to A2 and type revenue. I hope you know how to type revenue in A2. And the merge and center, just like what we did in A1. We should be able to do that. Clear the contents of cell E3. So do not send me a message. How do you clear something from E3? I know people working from home, so do not send me that message, because you should be able to delete something from E3. So if not, then we're in the wrong place. All right. Then it says enter the data in B7 through D7. The data is provided in the next page. So the data is pretty simple and straightforward. You will see the data right there. All it's saying is go to B7, type 1800 and 1950, C7, and D7 2020. So the data, it needs to be typed. Okay. Is it possible, the question could be for online students, can I just copy the data from here and paste it? Yes, you may do so, but when you paste it, be careful. Don't paste the formatting of it. You can go and paste special and say text only. So you can go to paste special and text. In that way, the styles and the formatting of Word are not transferred to Excel. So otherwise, you will have some problems with the instructions. Then it says in step number 7, use the fill handle, copy the formula in B8 to C8 through D8. So it's referring to a formula which is already applied for us in B8. So this is B8. So this is a B8 right there. So B8 has a value right there based on the formula. I can see the formula in my formula bar, or right here. That's the formula which was already given to me, equal sign sum B4 through B7. So it's basically doing an addition for those cells. It wants me to use fill handle. What is a fill handle option? So fill handle is I don't have to type this formula for the neighboring cells or other cells. And there is a small square here. See this small square? I think camera can capture it. This small square, I can hold on to the left mouse key and drag this one to other cells, and automatically it's going to apply appropriate formulas for the neighboring cells as well. So remember, this formula is for B range, this should be for C range, this should be for D range, and so on and so forth. So if I use the fill handle, I don't have to type the formula anymore. So I'm going to hold on to the left mouse key, drag this one here, and guess what? When I drag this one, automatically it calculates C4 through C7, and this one for D4 through D7. That's called a fill handle. Fill handle is very useful, especially if you have a complicated functionality applied. You don't have to retype and change the ranges. It's a smart application. It knows the ranges. It knows what your intention is. So automatically it changes the ranges. This is called relative referencing. We'll talk about relative referencing later on. In fact, in later project, we'll be spending a lot of time relative referencing versus absolute referencing. Okay, so that's your fill handle. Right, a few more steps, then we'll stop. Then it says do merge and center. You know how to do merge and center in step number 8. In step number 9, it says right here, apply accounting style to this range, B12 to B12 to D16 with $ and 2 decimal places. So first, when you have this range, B12, which is right here, to D16. So you select the range. So what I have done, I have selected the range B12 to D16. Once the range is selected, then you can apply. Again, you can apply in multiple ways. If you're used to a certain way, that's okay. So one method could be you can use maybe the formatting right there. You can use a formatting right there, and you can find accounting is one of those styles with $sign and 2 decimal places. Or if you prefer that you want to be more flexible, you can right click on it, and again for the camera I want to capture it. Once the range is selected, right click in this range, you can go to format cells. When you click on format cells, and I think that's what Stefan was referring earlier, and one of those options is accounting right there, accounting. When you click on accounting, it's going to ask you what kind of symbols would you prefer and how many decimal places. The default is $sign and 2 decimal places. We can change it. If your client is in Europe, so you want to select the euro symbol, you may do so. Or if you want to have different decimal places. In some places later on in other projects we'll be using 0 decimal places and so on and so forth. Okay, so once you're satisfied, you can hit OK. What it does, it converts that range with $signs and 2 decimal places. Okay, that's your accounting style. That's what one of the steps we have. I think step number 9 refers to the accounting style. All right. Then it says in step number 10 that create a formula using sum function to calculate the total expenses. This is very similar to the sum function we have for B range, B, C, and D range. This is for E range and E, F, and other. So this is the same formula, so I'm not going to show you that one. You should be able to figure that out. Also, it says for certain ranges, make it bold, change the font style, change the font size, and change to this accent 6, darker 25%. Again, what does it mean? Green, accent 6, darker 25%. And in fact, they are so helpful, they tell you which column and which row you can find this particular style. So this should be really simple. It's a font color. So again, just look for it. You should not be able to miss it. Go to the 10th column and the 5th row, and you should be able to find that particular font color. Right, so I'm going to skip step 11 as well. For step number 12, we're almost done. So we're almost done. As you can see, it took us only a few minutes, and we already have finished most of the steps, or at least covered most of the steps. It's step number 12. A lot of people confuse this one. They say, I don't know how to write formulas. All it's saying is take one cell, subtract from the other cell. So if you read this one carefully, in cell B20, that's where we need to apply this functionality. Create a formula. So don't overwhelm yourself. Just think about it. It's a simple calculation without using a function. So we are not going to use sum or any other function. Nothing. There's no function involved. Calculate the profit. Whenever profit comes to your mind, what two things come to your mind?
Money.
So two things. Your income and your expenses. Income and expenses, those two things. So if you want to calculate, if you want to find out, did you make money or lose money? What do? You take your income, subtract your expenses. If your income is $2,000 and your expenses are $1,800, did you lose money or you saved money? You saved money by $200. If your income is $2,000, your expenses are $2,500, you lost $500. So you take your income, subtract your expenses. So it's doing the same thing here. It says calculate the profit in 2018 by subtracting the expenses. Remember, subtracting the expenses. Subtracting the expenses. So don't do the other way around. Minus expenses. Subtracting the expenses from what? From, which is in B16, expenses are B16, from the total revenue. From the revenue. Revenues are basically your earnings. So revenue minus expenses. So let's see if we can do it. So we go to B20. So I go to B20 right here. So that's where B20 is. That's where the net profit needs to be calculated. So remind me from last time, from last video, how do I start a formula in Excel? With equal sign. So this is a standard in Excel. So whenever you're not sure, you are writing a functionality for your clients. Many of you will be using, you might be working while you're in school, in doctor's office or other offices. So you'll be given this responsibility to create certain spreadsheets. So you put equal sign. As soon as you put equal sign, Excel knows that now you're expected to have some kind of functionality. So it asks us to take the revenues. These are the revenues. When I click on it, automatically it is selected. So I clicked on revenues. I don't even have to type B8. I just clicked on it. Then subtract, because that's what I had mentioned earlier, subtract the expenses. Minus expenses are right here. So when I click the revenues, put the subtraction symbol, minus symbol, and B16, click on the B16 and hit enter key. Hopefully when you do that, you will end up with either profit or loss. So in this case, we actually have some net profit, 66.55. Now if I'm not sure if my functionality is correct, what should I do? If I'm working from home, you're watching this video, you're working from home, you're not sure if your numbers are correct or not. You're kind of person, you're always kind of, you want to be perfect in every step. So this is what I recommend for those individuals. You go back to your instructions, scroll down, and look at the number here. So this number is different from my number because I did not plug in some of the data from the previous steps. So in the previous steps, remember it asked me to put B8, one of those, the values in B's and C's and D's. I said you can do it. Those numbers are missing. If you go through those numbers, you should have exactly 84.55. If you don't have 84.55 in your step number 13, something is not right. Okay? So you can verify your results by looking at the bottom of your instruction file. All right, so that's your step number 13, 12, and then in step number 13, it's going to ask you to apply again some kind of tab color. You should be able to apply the tab color. We have 2 more steps to go. It says select the clustered column chart. This chart is already given to us. This was already created for us. So it's asking us to select a chart. I want you to watch what happens when I select the chart. When I go to the chart, here's a chart. I'm going to make it slightly smaller so it's captured there. So right now, before selecting the chart, those are the ribbons I have on the top. I have currently home ribbon, insert ribbon, page layout, formulas, data, review, view, Acrobat, team. You might have a different based on which applications are installed on your personal computer. So team is another software for communication. It's more like business communication. That's a software. You might not have the team ribbon at home. So don't worry about it if you don't have exactly the same ribbons. What I want you to pay attention to it, as soon as I click on my chart, there additional ribbons will appear here. Those ribbons, they're typically 2 ribbons, sometimes a little bit more, are specific to the chart. So watch what happens. If I click on my chart, 2 additional ribbons appear. One is called design, one is called format. So those 2 ribbons are specific to this chart. When this chart is selected, I know I can tell it's selected. As you can see, there's a border around it. So this chart is selected. Then I can customize this chart. And we'll do that in the future projects. We'll be spending a lot of time on customizing these charts. Once you have this chart here, you can send it or export it to a website. You can put it in an app. You can send it to a Word document. You can put it on PowerPoint. You can put it in multiple places. So here we'll learn few things, only 1 or 2 things about this chart. If I go back to the instructions, it tells me under step number 14A, change the chart style of the clustered column to style 5. Again, just like I showed you heading 1 for the cells, it's the same thing, but this is designed for the clustered column or chart. So how do I find style 5? I go back to my spreadsheet, make sure this is selected. I go to design, and I can find under designs various types of chart styles. As you can see right there, chart styles. If I'm not sure what I'm looking for, I always recommend you click on this down arrow, and it's going to show you all the different options for the chart. Current one is the default one, the first one. I think it's called style 0 or style 1. One of those styles are default styles. It wants me to apply style 5. So I go to bring my control here. This one is called style 5. How do I know? It says right there, style 5, right there. So hopefully you will go through one of these. You'll say style 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 5. So once you select style 5, it will be applied to your chart. Okay. If I click on style 5, it's going to look slightly different, and this is what is selected. All right, so that's your step 14A. Then it says move this chart to a separate sheet by itself. Right now it's sitting where your data is. So this doesn't mean cut and paste. Do not do cut and paste. Do not remove manually by cut and paste. If you do that, Sam is going to deduct some points. So this means that you are moving with the proper functionality. So how do I do that? I can go back here. I can say my chart is selected. Once the chart is selected, like what we did, I showed you earlier, right click anywhere on the chart, right click, and one of the options it's going to give you is move chart. So once you right click on your chart, the option is move chart, and this move chart will ask you, are you sure you want to move this one to a separate sheet? A dialog box opens up like this one. It's asking, choose where you want this chart to be moved. So you can move as an object, you can move as a separate sheet. That's the one we want, new sheet. So when you select new sheet, the default name is chart 1. That's not what the instructions are telling us. Instructions are telling us, call this one 2020 expenses. When you're moving this one, call this one 2020 expenses. You can type this one, or you can copy and paste it there. Either way is fine. So once we do that, this chart will be moved to that location. So this chart is still connected to the data in company analysis sheet. The data is still based on that sheet, but the chart is by itself in a sheet. So here I did not change the name. In your case, when you're working from home, you can change the name. If you make a mistake in the name of the chart, then you can right click and fix it. Right click and rename it. You can fix it here as well. So far so good. The last step, and we're all done. Step number 15, it says now it's your turn to create a new chart, and it's asking us to create a 3D pie chart. Switch back to the company analysis sheet, select range A12 through A15 and D12 to D15. A12 is right here, D12 is right here. They're not neighboring cells or neighboring ranges. They're separate. So it wants us to pick adjacent cells. So adjacent ranges. So sorry, not adjacent ranges. So how do I do that? I can go to my sheet, company analysis sheet, and this is where A12 through A15 is. That's why A12, A15 is, as you can see in this video. And then it wants me to pick D12 through D15, which is these 4 cells. Now some of you probably already did this and you were trying to figure it out because I got some online messages that I cannot do it because you were trying to select this range. If we do that, it's going to pick up the ranges B and C as well, the column B and column C as well. We do not want that. We want non-adjacent cells. So who can help me? What do I do? Yeah, Nicole?
You click control and you select another.
Sure. So once you select this range, again for the camera, I can pick it up, select that range, hold on to the control key, guys. Okay, for the people who are working from home, this is how you can select non-adjacent ranges, and throughout the semester we'll be doing this frequently. Hold on to the control key, and select the other range, D12 through D15. So I was holding on to the control key. Now notice that this range, A range is selected and D range is selected. And in between, those ranges are ignored. So once those two ranges are selected, our chart will be based on those two ranges. Remember, when you have data in multiple columns, pie chart is not a good chart to select. Column chart or bar chart or line chart is good when you have B, C, D, E, all these different ranges. Months, January, February, March, April, May, June. Don't use the pie chart. Pie chart is designed, it's kind of more specific. So what we are looking for some headers, and we are looking for one set of data, maybe for 1 year, maybe for one category, one product, or one store. So that's what we are looking for. So once you actually have selected, you can go to insert, you can go to the charts. So right here, you can see I went to the insert ribbon on the top, and under charts, I was able to find a pie chart, and the instructions are asking me to pick up 3D pie chart. There's only one option, so there's no confusion about that one for 3D pie chart. I click on 3D pie chart, which is right here in the middle, and it generates that chart for me. So it gives me A12, 13, 14, 15. Those are the ranges I selected there. And then the data comes from D12, 13, 14, 15. That's the data. So it's color coordinated. It tells me North Miami is blue, so that's North Miami, and so on and so forth. In the future projects, it will also ask you to put these names or these percentages or these numbers right there for each one of those pies, each one of those segments of the pie chart. And there's one or two additional steps. It might ask you, move this to a separate sheet. Again, you can right click anywhere, move to a separate sheet, change its style, change its header, and so on and so forth. Now some of you probably are curious. Again, we'll revisit this one. If you have to take a pie, let's say I want to select this pie and drag this pie. It's called exploding a pie. You can actually hold on to the pie, hold on to the left mouse key. You can explode a pie of a bigger chart. We'll be applying these settings, and you see this in the magazines and newspapers, especially in business magazines all the time, because they are focusing on one aspect of the pie chart. They are not worried about entire state of California. They're just looking at Long Beach, for example. So our focus as a reader is on that particular part of the exploded pie chart. Once you have completed all the steps, you can save it, close it. Okay, I'm going to emphasize on this one for the people working from home. When you finish your Excel, and especially Access databases, make sure you save it, close it. Sometimes what happens, it tries to upload the temporary file which has nothing in there. Temporary files are basically temporary working files, and there's nothing in there to be uploaded, and then there's confusion. You leave that lab, you leave that location. When you come home, there's nothing to be uploaded. So and this one, because I did not even save it locally, so there's no file there. So if I say save as, go to browse, go to my desktop, save it, so the file is saved right there. So once I save it, close it, then I'm ready to upload it to my SAM site. Again, for the people working from home, if you have worked with Excel, probably it will take you, like some of the students from the classroom, 30 to 45 minutes. If this is the first time you're working with Excel, it might take you 2 hours or less. So please make sure you finish your training one or lab one before you proceed to this project. All right, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.